James Hergott here, and I wanted to talk today about uh, something kind of unique that, in my opinion, the bodybuilding industry and bodybuilders specifically are essentially the astronauts of the fitness industry. Uh, I've heard a lot of criticism about bodybuilding and bodybuilding shows. So I'll start by kind of the criticism within the industry. One of the things that I hear now coming out of people like Rich Piana talks about this and others, and they mention about how, well, when you compete, all you are competing for is a trophy, and they mention that it doesn't really do anything for you. Well, I respect Rich Piana and I agree with a lot of things he says. I do see value in competition. For one, it can draw out the best in you, especially comparing yourself to other people. It can also draw out the worst in you, but the point is that having to be judged against others and being in a situation where you're not just by yourself and judged by yourself, but compared to peers, forces you to up your game. Now, I think that the opinion of somebody like Rich Piana and other people in the industry is that what is the point of bodybuilding? What is the point of competing? And you hear this even more outside of the industry. So of course, when I entered my first competition, well, and my second, third, every competition, my family and loved ones would say, "Why are you doing this? What is the point of competing?" I mean, to them, it seems like a ludicrous thing to do, to get all shredded up, to go on stage for just a few minutes and possibly get a trophy. Well, first of all, of course, you want to compete to challenge yourself like anything else. And in doing so, you learn a lot of things along the way. So with the NASA program to go to the moon, it could be said, what is the point of going to the moon? Going to the moon on itself is not a specific goal, meaning like going there is not going to achieve something. It's not curing cancer. However, in having the ambition to go to the moon, what happened was that there was a lot of science and things that were developed along the way, which furthered technology, furthered science, and of course we learned a lot in that. So simply having that goal of going to the moon and doing it, of course, having a man on the moon is somewhat symbolic, but beyond that, the actual everything that led into it really developed a lot of the technologies and things that we use today. Likewise, bodybuilding may seem extreme. It may not make sense. I know to a lot of people that criticize sort of the aesthetic part of bodybuilding. They say, well, if you're not getting stronger for the sake of competition or this or that, what is the point of bodybuilding? Well, bodybuilding essentially has carved the way for almost every major fitness revolution that we've had um, over the last half century. Let's look at some specifics. You know, for years, the government and other people were preaching high carbohydrate diets. And what is all of the trends now? It's, more towards if you want to lose weight, it's towards lower carbohydrates. We're learning more and more about the negative impact of sugars and how they spike insulin. And not only can this lead to diabetes, but also a lot of the things with sugars now, there's now studies that are showing a correlation with heart disease, maybe even more so than cholesterol. So in many ways, bodybuilding is ahead of its time, and the things that are adopted and learned by bodybuilders are later learned by the sports and fitness community, and then by the general public at large. So with dieting, it started to be kind of just an inside thing within bodybuilding. If you look at the bodybuilders in the 70s, They did a lot of high protein stuff. They would cut down on their carbohydrates. They would even eat a lot of fats and things like that. And they were really ahead of their time. So again, you could look at it like, well, what was the point of what Arnold and these guys were doing? But they were really on the forefront of some revolutionary things to do with diet. Same thing with fitness. I mean, a lot of the trial and error things that were done in the 70s and 60s with fitness, people use and integrate into their training now. And of course, there was a time that coaches would tell athletes that not to do any weightlifting. So it was discouraged. And I know that Joe Weider, specifically was frustrated by this because a lot of people, a lot of coaches would tell their guys, don't lift weights, you'll get muscle bound. And now we see that there's, with most of the teams, there's all kinds of fitness programs, there's weight rooms, there's all sorts of things that are utilized so that it helps them with performance. Because now it's realized that, weight training can help them. Another thing on a pharmaceutical level, obviously, bodybuilders were using testosterone and all these things, and that was looked at as a really horrible thing. And now you watch TV and you see advertisements for testosterone, not to fitness people even, but to general people that have passed a certain age and their testosterone levels have dropped off, especially for men. And now the pharmaceutical companies are saying, and doctors are coming around and saying, at a certain age or for certain people, there's a point that they need to start testosterone therapy. So of course it's a little bit different than the steroids and the testosterone that was being taken, by bodybuilders, but they were really the first ones to start using those hormones, and now we're realizing that there are some benefits of that. I think with growth hormone, still up in the air whether it's a good or bad thing to supplement that, as we get older. But again, growth hormone was something that largely was developed within the bodybuilding community and ended up being something that now there's, anti-aging clinics and things like that that prescribe it. So because bodybuilding is such an extreme thing, and you have to take things to such extremes to maximize the amount of muscle mass you have and to limit your amount of fat, there's a lot that is learned that can be applied to anybody that wants to change their their composition and to improve their muscular gains. And we're seeing that the same. I mean, you go along the line with supplements, with protein powders and branched chain aminos, and a lot of these different things that were developed for bodybuilding are now being used within the fitness community, and now are being used by the general community. You go into Costco now, you see protein powders. I don't even think 15, 20 years ago you saw anything like that. I don't think that major chains were carrying that. You'd have to go to a select store that was for bodybuilding to get something like that. Now my mom, uses a protein powder, and she's in her 70s. So just like the astronauts going to the moon seems really extreme, doesn't seem to make any sense at all. But there was a lot that was to be learned through that journey. I think bodybuilders have really advanced fitness, have advanced fat loss, have advanced knowledge about what it takes to add muscle, and they continue to do so. I'm sure that there's some extreme things, or what's considered extreme, that bodybuilders might be doing now, and later on that'll be adopted by the general community. And I think that what happens is that what seems really extreme and dangerous and stuff like that, sometimes it takes that trial and error testing in order to really develop sort of a bro science knowledge that later on is proven with data that it actually has an effect. And whether those things are safe or not, that's another question, but certainly not everything that bodybuilders do is unsafe. And I'm sure that there's groundbreaking things going on right now with bodybuilders that in the future people will use on a regular basis. So don't discount bodybuilders as just big guys that what they do makes no sense. They serve a very good purpose, and I think that we all as a society benefit from them. And in fact, in many ways, for lack of a better word, they're guinea pigs that kind of experiment with these things, and then later on, their experiments turn out to be something that is worthwhile and are utilized at large. So that's all I have to say about this. I appreciate you and checking out the video. Subscribe. Check out Radical Body Transformations. Peace out.